My name is Cecilia Brown, Esquire. Up Close and Cultural is where Black and Brown professionals give you the keys and insight to leverage your power against systemic discrimination. Cultivating our culture through knowledge that has been historically weaponized against us. My hope is to increase your quality of life. If knowledge is power, then power to the people. Thank you for watching Up Close and Cultural. I am your host, Cece Brown. Nia Richardson is currently with the City of Kansas City and works in the arena of entrepreneurship and small business through the KC Bizcare office. She is an HBCU alumni of Tennessee State University with a unique background in business administration. Since the age of 5, Nia watched her father build his own civil, structural engineering and design firm, where Nia learned the importance of resources to Black-owned businesses. Nia's effort gained the City of Kansas City a grant and participation in the National City Accelerator, with 9 other cities working on inclusive procurement efforts to help close the racial wealth gaps in the city. I am so excited for this episode of Up Close and Cultural because we have someone so important to me personally, but also to small businesses in Kansas City. Nia, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm having a great time already.
Period. Okay. So just jumping right in.
Okay.
I want to know how you developed your passion for what you do.
It was really something I was raised with. My name, Nia, means purpose. It's the 5th principle of Kwanzaa. My parents named me, and it's just kind of the way I was raised and the things that were instilled in me about community, about cooperative economics, about staying and building and growing and changing your community and how you do that and how you're very strategic about that. So just watching really my parents over life just do what they do and the things that they did in the community and just the business that they built kind of help really feed the passion that I have for what I do now with the city.
I really love that that's the background you have with it, because in Black and Brown communities, I think a big part of the breakdown is we don't have our parents to show us and guide us as compared to white families and white wealth. So that's really awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with the city?
So I am the assistant to the director for small business and entrepreneurship. I run our KC Bizcare office. We provide technical assistance and support to residents who are looking to start a business. So usually people come in and think, okay, the first thing I need to do is get a business license. And it's like, yes, but no. But there's so many things you have to do before you get the business license. And a lot of times people come into the business license office like it's the DMV. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting there and you realize, I don't have everything. And I was like, that is the most frustrating thing ever. And so when I came in, Bizcare had already been in existence for about 10 years. It started during the last recession in 2009. Mm-hmm. And my boss, Rick Usher, helped found the office, and then later on Business License moved in, and so it created more of a one-stop shop. So we could help someone get all the things that they need, register with the state, get your EIN, navigate the city to know what's departments to go to, what permits do you need based on the business that you start. And so once we helped them do all those things, then I could literally walk you up front and say, okay, get your business license.
Wow.
And go. And so you would see people come in and walk up, and they'll walk down the little strip on the side of the building. And I can see it from my window, and they're excited. It's like, it's so official. It's like, I started my business, yes. Yeah. And it's so official, and I love it. It's so great when someone is talking to you and they're just like, thank God I talked to you. Like, I now get what I need to do.
Well, they get the answers and they get the guidance, and that is so much of what is missing, I think, is answers, guidance, just kind of that blueprint.
The real talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have another question for you. We all know that Black and Brown money, entrepreneurship, and business has been abused from the start, really. Can you go into depth about the racial wealth gap in America?
So that's funny, because when I started my job, one of the things that I had to do, I was applying for this grant, and I had to dig really deep to say, okay, what is the racial wealth gap and what's going on? And so when I started in 2018, there was a report that came out in early 2019 about the racial wealth gap. And I don't remember all the facts about it, and I apologize for not having that, but the biggest thing that stuck out to me in that report was Black families was the only race on track to having zero or negative wealth. And I believe it was like either 2052, 2082, but it's soon. Like our kids are going to see the impact of that. And it caused me to pause and say, what's my own personal net worth. I look up on my little bank and I was like, so it's negative.
Right.
So we're living that reality now.
Right.
Like, even as a working person, it's like, all right,
with
how
a
do I
very
even
good
get,
job.
and how do I even get like, so how do I get myself out of that negative? And so if that's me and I'm working and I'm raising kids and things, how does everybody else look at that?
Right.
Are we already there?
Right.
So for me, it's like, if you tell me that the person with the most need is on this track and they're going to be right here, that is the one thing that I use to say, here's why I do this for this. And so when people say, well, why black? Why not this or why not that? Because these are the people, we are the people
right.
with the greatest need. And so if I start there, then I know everyone else will rise. So it's like a rising tide raises all boats.
Absolutely.
And I like to say a rising tide raises all ships, because for me, I'm about building ships. And that leads into basically entrepreneurship, home ownership. So how we close that racial wealth gap is through those key components. Because owning a home helps you build capital, helps you build credit. Being an entrepreneur means not only do I create wealth for myself, now I'm creating opportunities for others. So employment, investment in a community. So growing up under two entrepreneurs and seeing how we invested back in the community, we hired from the community, we did so many things. Just my time in the community, volunteering for these different things makes a difference. So sometimes it's not my money, but it's my time.
Absolutely.
That can be a racial closure
Absolutely.
in my community. It's not always about putting money in somebody's pocket. It's really about building. So how do we collectively build as a community and close that racial wealth gap? So that's like the key thing in my work. And that's what kind of keeps me driving or keeps me pushing every day.
That is so awesome. Period. That's what it's about. Nia, can you talk a little bit about what type of obstacles Black and brown businesses face in a market where white people are already outperforming, and white people and white businesses are outperforming everyone?
So one that I'm really familiar with is procurement. So procurement is when you do business with the city, and a lot of people don't realize there are opportunities there to grow their business by government contracts, doing business with the city, doing business with the feds or things like that. So in the procurement realm, or when you're doing work with a private company, in the procurement realm, whether it's public or private, it is a very heavy white male dominated industry. The minorities or the women, we're the ones who are kind of fighting over the crumbs. So when they say MWBE or disadvantaged businesses, a lot of times that's smaller pieces of the pie. It's not, oh, I get a big chunk of the pie. It's a small piece of the pie. And working for my father, I really got to see how different everything is and how hard. I was like, why hasn't the business grown here versus being here? Well, because sometimes this program that was really supposed to help us get up and going, if it's not built right, if it's the foundation is weak, people can't excel.
Absolutely.
And so we're always fighting over the crumbs and not getting the bigger piece of the pie to grow our businesses to the next level. So procurement is a realm in which I operate in with the city, and helping businesses do business with the city and getting people to understand that there are opportunities there, because the more minorities and women that I can help get into that boat, the more we can fight to say we need more opportunities here, break up more contracts, give me something more for these businesses, raise the goals so that more people can participate, more businesses can participate, or they can get bigger pieces of the pie. That has been a very interesting realm to kind of operate in and see, on being on the other side with my father and now being on this side working for the man, you know?
Well, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because when I think about entrepreneurship, whether you're Black or brown or a woman, what kind of resources do Black and brown businesses need from the city and from government agencies, and how often are they receiving them?
So I think the only thing that, city, big companies really need to do is just set aside the money, set aside the opportunities. If we do that, whether you're a small business, white, female, Black, Hispanic, whatever, you can open that gate for them. There are a lot of programs that are race and gender conscious, that's your MWBE programs, and then there's race neutral and gender programs, which would be like your small local business or your emerging business programs. And that creates opportunities for all. And in those programs, we can do more like break up big contracts, set aside big, these contracts for these individuals to make sure that they can have opportunities. They don't have to fight with the big guys all the time. I'm not saying cut everybody out, I'm saying create opportunity for all. And do it in a way and structure a foundation where I can go from here, go there, and go up, and I can play with the big boys.
Right.
It's not about beating them down. It's about helping me get there with you. I want to be a viable business with you.
And there's enough for everyone to eat.
There's enough for everyone to eat, and I think a lot of times in that world of minority and women and certification, it could be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
Because you're seen as inadequate or things of that sort. So when you say what resources are needed, I think what the city and other government agencies or private companies can do is create more opportunities through contracts. How do we leverage our buying power to grow small businesses and close the racial wealth gap? Other things that we are trying to build as far as resources for businesses would be like back office support. So accounting, legal, marketing. A lot of these businesses, whether they're just starting or they've been existing for a few years, don't really have that support. Access to capital is always a big deal. So when I walked into my role, I was like, hey, so I see businesses at their infant stages when they're just getting started. What can I do to build like a early childhood education for them? Because I'm catching you right there. So how do I get you ready for school?
Right.
How do I get you ready to play with the big boys?
Got you.
And I think if most of these small businesses or these entrepreneurs or micro enterprises or sole proprietors, however you classify yourself, if you just had that support around you, you're more than likely to be successful. So my goal is to build the programming that helps our businesses be capital and contract ready.
Awesome.
And COVID-19 has put that on it's just a big billboard of how important registration is for our businesses, resources are for our businesses, and capital is for our businesses. So those are, I would say, the big things, but capital is always going to be at the top of the list.
Well, and on the opposite side of that, obviously right now we are seeing so many equity and inclusion programs, right, being instilled in different cities and different corporations. What would you tell Black and brown entrepreneurs is the best way to go at this point to try to get into that realm of investment? Yeah. And also just like receiving capital?
There are a lot of organizations out there. I believe like OHUB was in Kansas City at one point in time, and they were really helping Black startups get in front of VCs or venture capitalists that can invest in their companies. So there are more accelerators programs by minorities or Black women or Black men that are helping to open the door or create a foundation for these younger entrepreneurs to come through. For our young professionals who are working in the bigger companies and helping to open a door for the entrepreneurs to come in, we need you there. But I would always caution you to say, for me personally, I lucked up on the role that I'm in, I feel like. But if
we don't do luck, we're blessed. We're blessed and highly favored.
But if I had to choose between working for a company that didn't have an equity program and one that did, I would really have to look deeper and say, why do you have one? Why is it not a part of your culture?
Right.
And then, do I really want to work someplace that may not really have my best interests at heart, or they're really trying to figure it out versus someplace that is? I think we spend a lot of time, money, and resources on trying to get these bigger firms or the companies to do what we want them to do.
Well, trying to assimilate.
Yeah, and it's like, it's their business. Why aren't we investing this money into minorities and women who are naturally going to create that culture?
Absolutely.
Create some competition for them. It's like if they don't want to play ball, so be it.
That's
Build
right.
your own.
That's right.
But the attention is always on getting someone to conform to something versus investing in those to build something and that they don't have to conform to, and just creating more opportunities.
Absolutely.
So I would say do your research, look deep.
Well, this was my experience when I started my law firm. First of all, I was young and dumb. Okay, no, but I was just like, I have a little nest egg that I'm sitting on.
Yeah.
I will put this into basically office space, a little bit of advertising, and really just to kind of carry my cases until I can start making some money. Okay. But I think, the heart of it was, girl, you better make some money so you can pay your bills.
Yes.
It was just very scary. I didn't have any investors.
Yep.
I didn't even know how to go get an investor. And I think that so many Black and brown people, and especially women, we just get up and go with what we have. And we don't know how to even identify those resources. So from your perspective and what you do in the city, how are you getting the word out so that entrepreneurs can say, hey, there's a resource, here's a resource? What are you guys doing to, I guess, kind of market it?
Well, I mean, in Kansas City alone, we have like an army of entrepreneurial support organizations. I mean, people always like to point to Kauffman, but there are so many other organizations out there. You know, we're one of the most philanthropic cities in America, so we have foundations. There's money to be invested. So with Bizcare itself, I realized in working with the city that the city is the center of this ecosystem because people can't get registered or licensed without it. You're not legit until you do it. And I realized that, okay, so people are naturally coming to us, no marketing budget, no any of that, but they were naturally gravitating. We were seeing thousands of people a year. I mean, we've licensed over 1,000 businesses, maybe more than that just in COVID. Like we're getting slammed right now and nobody stopped starting businesses. But I would say key resources for business and how we're helping them to get those resources. We created a virtual one-stop shop. Like KC Sourcing has like this rail of all these different resources out there for you, whether it's workshops, mentoring, programs, accelerators, they're all there. I don't need to have all that on my site. I can say, here's where you go to get these particular things. In conversation with people when we're walking them through the steps, you know, have a lawyer. I always tell people, have a lawyer. Do you have a lawyer? Do you have an accountant to really help guide you through this? Because I cannot legally advise people on how to structure their business. But I will tell them straight up, hey, let me tell you how you figure this out. You want me to sue you, or you want me to sue your business?
Exactly.
That's going to tell you
want
need
your
a
card took, or you want?
I'm going to take something. If I'm coming for you, I'm going to take some. So protect yourself, right? But it really depends on what you do. So what I try to do is just help people find some resources or help people understand what they're doing so they can ask the right questions.
Absolutely.
'Cause I don't have all the answers, but part of being an entrepreneur is knowing how to research and ask the questions to get what you need and to build what you need to build in order to be successful. But yes, got to make some money in that. But,
well, and it's what would you say, or how would you speak to the fear element of someone from a Black and brown, family or culture where there's not a lot of wealth, and they're just literally starting from, I have a dream. What would you say? What would you say to speak to the fear that may be holding them back?
I don't think until I became an adult that I realized that we were living off my mother's income for such a long time. I couldn't tell you how much my father had when he got started, but over time he just kept building. The access to resources was probably definitely one thing, access to capital, but having good mentors. It's not always about what you know or how great your business may look. It's really about who you know.
Absolutely.
Who can open a door, who can make a connection for you. I mean, hell, just even in my position right now, I'm making so many different connections. And of course, I'm selfishly bringing my father along. Hey, you heard about this company?
And she brings me along too. I'm like, hi.
Or anybody I know, any of my mentees. I mean, I feel like that's my job.
Absolutely.
My job is to help promote our businesses. So people that I'm working with, businesses of Kansas City. If I'm in another city, I'm promoting Kansas City. I am trying to really build Kansas City into the city of entrepreneurs. That's literally what I'm trying to do. And so by doing so, I want to help as many people become entrepreneurs. So Kansas will have the highest entrepreneurs per capita. But because like right now, I think we have some of the highest engineers per capita in Kansas City. I'm sure Texas is up there with us, but coming from the engineering side, I know that. And from that experience, I was like, okay, how about we do that for entrepreneurship?
Right.
And COVID might have presented an opportunity for that because it hasn't stopped. It really has. We are always, every day we are seeing people. Every day I'm talking to people and helping them get their business started. And you would think food is not a big deal right now.
Girl, please.
I am hungry. I'm
people
like, hey,
tired of cooking
you,
for themselves.
When you get done, send me that cupcake. I'm gonna just send me all of these samples.
Yes.
All that. But the resilience that I'm seeing right now, I don't really know what to say to people.
It's
to say,
a beautiful thing, though.
Right? Like, what do you do? I don't know what encouragement to really give you except do it.
But that's the beautiful thing about it. It is just do it, because unless you start, and until you start, you're not going to. You can't even fully dream the dream. You're just still right here. So I think that's some great advice.
It's nothing not scary about entrepreneurship. It is a huge risk, and it's a risk worth taking if you take it seriously. You can't be lazy.
I love that.
Yeah, somebody tried to call me out on a panel and was like, because I said, you can't be lazy. Be lazy. I was like, yeah. I talk to a lot of people who are just really lazy about it. They're not really looking into it. They're not doing their research.
They're not following up.
They're thinking, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to start up and I'm going to just make this happen. Nah. Did you really think about your marketing? Who is your customers? Who are you talking to? What's your competition look like? Like, tell me, can you even explain or articulate your business to me? If you can't do that, I'm like, nah, let me send you over here. Let me get you some education. Let's make sure you get in some classes. Get your business plan together. If you just can't even articulate your business in a sentence or two, then that elevator speech.
If y'all don't take anything else from
you
this,
can't do it.
If you can't articulate your business in a sentence or two, baby, you gotta go back and pray. You gotta write it down. Period.
Write it
You
down.
gotta figure it out.
Keep researching it.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is just what you went to school for. And I don't think people really picked that up. Like, school should really have taught you how to research and educate yourself.
Now, when you say school, though, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs don't go to college. Do you think that you need a college degree to become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. I think you just need to be open to learning. And a lot of the education for entrepreneurs doesn't happen at a college. A lot of colleges are just now bringing on entrepreneurial courses. A lot of entrepreneurial courses that a lot of these big colleges or Ivy League college do, they're kind of on the side, and they're really for entrepreneurs. They're not the people. They're not the students at the school. So these programs are coming about. So it's not that you have to have a 4-year degree. And I mean, I was a business major, but I didn't really know where I wanted to go with that. But I learned that business can take me anywhere. Everywhere. Because usually people have the skill, but they don't have the business mentality. So I can bake a cake, but hell, I couldn't tell you how to do my statement, my profit and loss. I don't even know how to apply for a PPP loan, nothing. And that's the other thing, the PPP, because we have a program now where we have a PPP prep program. It has really opened our eyes to a lot of these businesses are not registered. A lot of them don't do their accounting or their back office, their paperwork, knowing your profit and loss, knowing how to do a payroll. Some of these things they just never had to do. And people have been operating for years under the radar, not licensed, not registered. And now when they need help or relief, they can't access it because they never did those steps. And so we have more people coming in now say, I've been operating, but okay, that's cool, but you need to get started now. We're not going to chase you down and say, hey, you were operating for 3 years. Where's my tax money?
How hard is it for a small business to kind of relearn those things? You see that they do say, hey, I need to take the step to learn this and really get squared away? Or do you see people say, no, I'm just going to operate, business as usual and just pray that I stay under the radar?
I see both. But I think people need to learn a little bit about the various aspects of business, knowing your accounting, knowing your legal structure. You need to understand that so you can pull the right people in. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be an expert. That's almost impossible. Right. You won't have time to run your business. You won't have time to enjoy being an entrepreneur. So you're supposed to bring the right people in. So I would bring CC in as my attorney. Let's get my legal stuff right. I would have my accountant over here. And ironically, I grew up in that environment. Like all of my elders or my mentors, I had an accountant I could call, I had a lawyer I could call, an architect. Like there were always someone around me that I could ask a question to. And I don't feel like a lot of us grew up with that village.
That's very true. But it makes sense though if we think about even the education system and who all goes to college.
Yeah.
Friend, not everybody had a daddy who was a civil engineer. And not
told
everybody
me,
had a daddy. Let's start
You
there.
have 4 years.
That's what I'm saying though. But it's like, so I just love that you're doing what you're doing now because it was in you. You were raised with it. Where someone like me, it was like, girl, you better learn this. You're the only one who's gonna learn it. And so I just love that you're giving back with what you have, which is what this should all be about. We should always be giving back. Our gifts and our talents. If I can give it to my sister first, who can I give it to?
Entrepreneurship is the best way to give back and to pass on. You give back to your community, you pass on to the next generation. It's the most beautiful thing you could do.
I love that. Right now, there's a huge movement to buy Black as a way to support Black and brown businesses. But what are some other ways that consumers can support Black and brown businesses?
The thing around buying Black, that's great. Invest Black.
Period.
You can, I always say that we as Black consumers of Black businesses, it's a two-way street. We need to be better consumers. One that's just stopping in, patronizing it, not asking for discounts, paying full price, support your friends, support your family. But it's a two-way street when it comes to patronizing and providing customer service. I grew up with parents that are very, very adamant about working with Black businesses, buying Black, so forth and so on, as much as they possibly can. And there have been times when I felt like I didn't get the proper customer service. Somebody jacked up my car. Like, I wanted to go in. My father just kind of had to bring me back in and kind of explain, okay, give them the feedback.
Right.
Don't just go in.
Right.
If they don't accept the feedback, now that's different.
Right.
But we need to do better to say, hey, how about this? Or I would have enjoyed if I was greeted at the door or something like that. Let's just provide some feedback for our businesses to be better. Because customer service is a game changer. I don't care what color you are when it comes to business.
Well, even after you're done getting service somewhere, whether it's a hospital or a restaurant or a clothing store, they have all of these emails with these surveys on it. What can we do better? What da-da-da-da-da. I do feel like Black businesses don't always have that follow-up experience for the consumer. So I think that's a really good point. Now, I know that you're saying as a consumer, we should be giving the constructive feedback. But it's different for us to say it here on Up Close and Cultural, and then for me to receive bad service and be like, hey girl, can I talk to you about this? Right, exactly. So it's like,
want this food?
What is the realistic or even practical way that you can do that? Would you suggest like through an email, maybe write a letter? Because Black businesses, baby, you tell me my food ain't good, honey, we're gonna have to talk about it.
I've seen the internet. I've seen Facebook.
Exactly.
I've seen people go in on local businesses because of the customer service or how they felt like they were treated. And in a way, I think that's fair, because I don't think people should get away with treating someone poorly.
Sure,
especially if I'm spending my money with you.
Yes, especially.
And so that's a real good question. Like, who moves first? Is it going to be you? Or is it going to be me? Am I going to be a better consumer, or are you going to be a better customer service provider through your business?
Right.
But I would just start the tip with anybody that I work with and just say, hey, what product or service are you providing? And what's the most exceptional way you can do that? And don't just think about the marketing, think about the customer service side of what is the consumer or customer experience.
Right.
That's how you're going to differentiate yourself from anybody else. It is literally through customer service.
And truly, that's what we're paying for. I can go anywhere and get a cupcake. I'm paying for my experience when I get my cupcake.
Yes.
For my experience.
Yes.
Now
add your culture to that. What kind of experience can you give then?
Ow.
So we need to ingrain that in what we do. When you travel and you go to different countries, it's the experience.
Yes, absolutely.
The resorts, the service. People, when you're in Africa, people are always coming up to you and complimenting you on things. Welcoming you and trying to get you to come into their shop. They're so friendly because they want you to buy, but they know they can't get you in there if they say, hey girl, come on over here, holla at me.
Maybe in America, we like, you want hot sauce or not?
Yes, please. And I love it though. That's a different type of customer service. Yes. Can I got some in the bag? I usually have it in my bag.
Exactly. Don't worry about it. We have it.
But I think it's a two-way street. But I don't know who moves first. That's a hard one to say. And so since I work with the entrepreneurs, I say, hey, when you're starting this, incorporate that into your plan or what you do, and watch the difference that it makes. Because so many people can make so much money and do so much better in their business if they just added a little bit more cultural customer service to their business plan or agenda or whatever they do.
Nia, thank you so much for being a guest on Up Close and Cultural. If you learned anything from this episode, tell a friend to tell a friend, and make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms. You know what it is. If knowledge is power,
and power to the people.